My name's David Hughes. I was a Seaman First Class radar operator on the 795. I went in the service in 1943 in September, went to boot camp in Alameda, California. After boot camp, I was transferred down to Los Angeles area, where I was captain of the port for a while, and then on the fire division, standing fire watches on ammunition ships in Long Beach Harbor. After that, I went to radar school in San Diego, and when I finished that, they didn't know what to do with a bunch of radar men, so they sent us up to Northern California, Point Reyes, where they put us on beach patrol, where we were sailors on horseback. That was in 1944, the summer of '44. They finally secured beach patrol, and they sent a bunch of us down to New Orleans, to Algiers, Louisiana, across from New Orleans, to wait for a patrol frigate to be crewed. Another fellow and I had some real good duty at New Orleans. At that time, Algiers, which had been a Coast Guard base, had been taken over by the Navy. The Coast Guard had one barracks for transit personnel, but the Navy ran it. Well, we had a job in the kitchen doing the dishes. We got liberty every night. It was real good. But finally, they took us off that, and they put us on cleaning the chief's head, which we did for one day. And after that, we decided we didn't want that anymore. So we went to the placement center and said, do you have a place for 2 radar men on first ship out? And the personnel fella looked through and said, I have an LST that needs a radar man. Which one wants to go? Well, we talked it over. While we were talking it over, he picked my name, and I was picked. And we said, could we get liberty? Oh, he told us I had to be down there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I said, can we get liberty? Sure. So he gave us a liberty pass, and we went out over to New Orleans and celebrated. Next morning at 8 o'clock, I was at the dock with all my gear. The small boat came and picked me up. I got on the ship, weighed anchor, and away we went. And we stopped overnight in Gulfport, and being the first man, the youngest, or not the youngest, but the first one, most recent one on the crew, they gave me gangway watch. So everybody else went ashore. Well, we left the next morning from Gulfport and headed out through Panama, Hawaii, onto our first battle at Iwo Jima. And we were at Iwo Jima approximately 5 or 6 days, and then we left after we discharged our cargo. We went to Guam and the Philippines and staged for Okinawa. And we were in on the invasion of Okinawa on April 1st, which also happened to be not only April Fool's Day, but Easter, Easter Sunday. We stayed in Okinawa until the end of the war, and just after the war was over, we took a trip up to Nagasaki, Japan, where we picked up ex-prisoners of war, which was quite an experience to see them and hear their stories. We returned to Okinawa, where they were flown to the Philippines. We then received word that we were going back to the States, so we got the homeward bound pennant, put it up, and then we also found out we were going to be towing another LST, the 890, and we towed the 890 as far as Saipan. Originally the orders read to Honolulu. And then from Saipan we returned via Honolulu to Long Beach, where quite a few of the crew got off, and then down through the canal to New Orleans, Orange, Texas, and finally the ship was nested in the bayous, I guess you would call it, of Lake Charles, Louisiana. I got off the ship the last part of March of 1946 and got a train to San Francisco, where I was discharged on April the 6th, 1946. After discharge, I went back to school, and in 1950 graduated from the University of California at Berkeley. I went to work for Westinghouse Electric Corporation in San Francisco for 2 years, and then was transferred to Sacramento, my hometown, for 2 years. And while living in Sacramento, I had met Ann, my wife, and we got married in 1954. And in 1955, well, Ann and Uncle had a travel agency in San Francisco, and they asked if I would like to join them. And we decided between us I would. So we moved in December '55 to San Francisco. At that time we had one son, and we were in the Bay Area for about 30 years, living mostly in north of San Francisco in Marin County, where we had 3 more children. My oldest, who was born in Sacramento, was named Richard. And my daughter Nancy, a son Evan, and a son Timothy. In about 1980, we moved back to Sacramento, and everybody stayed in Marin County. My children stayed in Marin County except Timothy, who was the youngest and was still in high school. And we now all my children are married except for my daughter, and I have 2 grandsons who are my oldest son's son, and 1 daughter who is my second son's child. My youngest son has been married for 2 years, and so far they haven't plans for children yet. I retired about 5 years ago, and in my retirement I got interested and involved in the United States LST Association, particularly the California chapter. And also I got interested and a little bit involved in trying to find the crew members of the LST 795, which as of this date there are 19 of us who have been in contact with each other. We did have 20, but unfortunately Jack Atherton passed away a couple of weeks ago. And I hope that next year we will have a reunion in Norfolk, and I hope there are more people attending, because this has been real great.